What's up, guys? Today on Robbie's Reviews, I am in the 2017 Mercedes-AMG C63 S Cabriolet. Now, I just want to thank my dad, who's allowing me to take the car out today to drive and review it and to show you guys all of its cool features. I've actually already driven the car many times before, but this time I'll be just giving you guys my opinion on what it's like to drive and live with on a daily basis. Alright guys, here she is, the 2017 Mercedes-AMG C63 S Cabriolet. Now this example is finished in Designo Diamond White Metallic. It is a beautiful metallic white paint. You can see out here in the South Florida sun, there's lots of metal flake, if you guys can see that. You can see the two power domes in the hood. It's kind of like a signature design element of all Mercedes-AMG models. Now starting with the front here, you can see the headlights. You have the dual LED projectors. That is actually the LED intelligent light system, the dynamic LED lights. That's a pretty expensive option over the regular LED high performance lights, which should only give you one projector, but they actually can swivel in all different directions, up, down, left, and right. They can actually move in different directions apart from each other. So of course we have the Mercedes-AMG grille here. You have the AMG badge, and you have the cover for the Distronic Plus or Distance Pilot, Drive Pilot. It's all the same thing. It's Mercedes-Benz's adaptive cruise control system. So on cars that don't have the option equipped, there wouldn't be like a floating Mercedes logo here. It would be kind of just hollow or cut out. And a lot of people like the glowing star, which you can't have with the Distronic Plus. And moving on from the grille down to the bottom of the bumper, you have this nice gloss black trim with the silver outline here with the diamond white paint. Lots of openings. It's a very, very aggressive car. And all those openings are actually functional. It is needed to cool off the handcrafted 4-liter biturbo V8 from AMG, which, as many of you may know from seeing a lot of my other reviews with Mercedes-AMG models, this engine appears in basically every other model in the Mercedes-AMG lineup. The AMG GT, the C63 of course, the Saloon, the Coupe, and of course this being the Cabriolet, the E63S Estate or Wagon and the Sedan, the S63, all the AMG SUVs, the GLC 63S, GLE, and so on and so forth. So it's a very popular engine for Mercedes-AMG to use. It's been around for about 6 years now. Like I said, in mostly every AMG model. And once we open up the hood in a little bit, I'll kind of go into more detail about the engine. But continuing with the front here, of course you have the Mercedes-Benz star there. So moving around to the side here, you guys can see the wraparound parking sensors. That's part of the park assist system. And one thing you guys will notice is just how pronounced and aggressive and wide the front fenders are. It is much wider than the regular C-Class Cabriolet and Coupe. Of course, they needed to fit those larger brakes and the wheels and tires. And with this being the S, it actually has staggered front and rear wheels. So it has 19s in the front, 20s in the back. You actually get things like active engine mounts, larger brakes, of course the electronic rear diff. And you get race mode, which gives you the race start or Mercedes-AMG's launch control. So there's a lot for your money that you get than just that little letter S on the trunk when you get the C63S or any AMG S car. And moving down the side here, you guys can see those amazing Mercedes-AMG body lines. One of my favorite things about all Mercedes-AMG vehicles is they're very pronounced and aggressive body lines. You can see the one at the top here kind of starts right at the end of the running light or the DRL on the headlight, continues all the way down the front fender, into the door, through the door handle, continuing all the way down the rear quarter panel here, into the taillight, and actually just perfect sculpted body line that goes continuously uninterrupted all the way across. And it's the same thing for the one down here. Kind of starts at the bottom of the front fender, continues through the door, all the way through the rear fender, and then into the other, to the rear wheel. You have very nice aggressive side skirts with that silver trim. Continuing on the back here, you have those same wraparound parking sensors for the park assist system. And this vehicle does have the optional carbon fiber rear trunk spoiler, which is very nice, kind of a ducktail look. And coming around the back here, just like the front end, the rear is very aggressive. It is much wider than a regular C-Class Coupe or Cabriolet. It's definitely a lot wider than the sedan. And the reasoning behind that is Mercedes-AMG actually designed the Coupe with the Cabriolet in mind. So they had to fit the roof, the mechanism and everything, and it had to basically distribute the weight. So the front and rear track of the Coupe/Cabriolet is much wider than the sedan. I think it's a much more muscular, sculpted looking car. All AMG models usually look way more aggressive than their non-AMG counterparts. However, in the case of the C63 and C63 S Cabriolet and Coupe, I just think the designers and engineers at Mercedes-AMG just knocked it out of the park with the design on this car. I mean, everything. You have the rear vents that come out here, actually kind of the same as the AMG GTC. The GTS actually doesn't get these kind of like vents that come out. So this being a lot wider, they had to like compensate, add another design element here. Of course, you have the aggressive AMG rear diffuser with those AMG quad exhaust tips. They're kind of like that rectangular classic look with the AMG logos kind of like embossed there into the exhaust tips. And many of you guys may have seen on my Instagram page, my dad's license plate is Headroom, which I think is just the best license plate ever for a convertible. And we are going to drop the top in a little bit. I just didn't want to have the South Florida sun roasting the red leather interior. So continuing on with the rear, of course, we have the large LED taillights, 100% LED. You have the AMG badge, the Mercedes-Benz logo here, and of course this is actually the housing for the rear camera, which pops out, and I'll show you guys that in a little bit. And here you have the C63S logo. So on a non-S vehicle, you wouldn't have kind of this lower part here with the S, it would just say C63. A lot of people add it, and it's technically up badging, but at the end of the day, you really can't tell the difference between the cars when you're looking at them side by side, unless you really know what to look for, like the wheels and the brakes, stuff like that. For the most part, all the major differences between the two cars are really underneath all the bodywork and kind of in the computers and you know, around the engine and stuff. Of course, you have your little antenna for the Sirius satellite radio. Third brake light back here. Obviously, with the coupe is up in the back window, but being a convertible, they had to relocate the third brake light there. I mean, guys, just look at how aggressive this car looks. I mean, and it's not a big car and it's not a small car. It's kind of somewhere in between. It's kind of a regular sized coupe. It's not light by any means. It's about 4,100 pounds. And part of the reason for that is convertibles are heavy. I mean, it's a soft top and they have to have somewhere for all this to go. They have to basically add extra rigidity to the chassis area so you don't get that kind of like floppy effect when you put the roof down. But nonetheless, when you're driving it, it does not feel heavy at all. You really can't even tell you're driving a 4,000 plus pound car. And actually, if you look up here in the windshield, these are the stereoscopic cameras that are used for the Distronic Plus system. And you also have the rain sensor in the middle. And this vehicle actually is equipped with the surround view 360-degree camera system. So first you have the front camera right there, right above the star there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that too well. And then you have another camera under the mirror right here. And so the camera in the grille, the cameras on the mirrors, and then the camera that pops out of the trunk actually work together to stitch together an image that is a top-down view of the car. So it really helps you in any parking situation. You can go to each camera individually, and while you may have seen this system in action in my other Mercedes-Benz reviews, I'll kind of go into detail as this system is a little bit different. It's a different screen, so I'll show you guys that in a little bit. And actually, while I am going to show you guys kind of a side view of the roof going up and down, by reaching my pocket real quick, got the key fob here. I simply hold unlock. The windows go down. The rear part of the roof opens up here. The rear clamshell opens. You see the mechanism in there. Now the roof is doing its thing. Folding neatly away just behind the passenger bulkhead there. And of course, one more press of unlock. All the windows come down. And that amazing Napa leather, the black red pepper interior shows. I mean, out here in the South Florida sun, looks spectacular. You see that it has the actually has the AMG Dynamica or Alcantara inserts here with the red contrast stitching. All the perforation for the heated and cooled functions of the seats. And you have the Falterbach logo actually on the headrest there. It's pretty cool. And the AMG logo. You have everything from power thigh extenders. So these being the comfort seats, they're actually equipped with the air scarf option. Now if you come around to the back of the headrest here, you guys can see those fans. So with the air scarf, which you can see kind of blows here, it looks like an air vent. When you hit that, it actually will blow warm air onto your neck. So on cold nights, when you want to drive with the top down, heated seats on, you have your air scarf. And then you have the air cap, which I'll demonstrate in a little bit. So that includes this part of the roof here, which actually rises up. And you have this actually over here, this kind of like net screen that pops up. And that kind of helps the air get over the car and not, creating turbulent air inside. And of course you have the V8 bi-turbo badging on the fender. And we're going to open up the hood in a little bit, and I'm going to show you guys the 4-liter bi-turbo V8. For now, I'm going to close the roof back up so leather doesn't start boiling in the sun. So we have the key fob here, just hold lock. So the roof starts to come out, it's doing its thing. Just like that, it's a one-touch operation. And believe it or not, this feature has actually been in Mercedes-Benz models since the late 90s. The 1998 or 1999 SL500 had it. Then you had the CLK, which had it, which is basically the predecessor of this car. And it's really just an awesome option to have. I mean, I do believe it's standard if you have the keyless go, the key here. Of course, you have the Falterbach logo on the back of the key, which is pretty cool. And actually, coming back to the brakes here, the red calipers is actually an option. So you have the red 6-piston calipers, and this being an S, you have the larger rotors. And what looks like a center lock is actually just a cover. There's a special tool that comes with the car. You use it to grip onto this, and it spins off. And you actually have the 5 lug nuts under this cover, so it gives it a cool center lock look. Very cool. All right, so now I'm going to open up the hood, show you guys that 4-liter bi-turbo V8. And here it is, guys. This is the 4-liter bi-turbo V8, otherwise known as the M177, and it produces 503 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Now, just like what BMW, Audi, Porsche, and even Lamborghini is doing, they're using these smaller displacement, either 4-liter or 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8s, known as the hot V. So that's where the turbos, which are right here, are in the V or the valley of the engine, and that keeps the turbos nice and hot, basically all but eliminating turbo lag. And even though these cars are not naturally aspirated anymore, the old M156 engine, the 6.2-liter V8, was a great engine, but it did have its shortcomings, and one of them being torque. These turbocharged AMG engines just are torque powerhouses. I mean, and even with a simple tune, they pick up like 150 to 200 pound-feet of torque. So they're very tunable, modifiable. But you do have very efficient cooling on these vehicles. You have the intake here that kind of just goes right over the engine, cool everything off. You have the twin intakes, which go directly into the engine. And of course, you have all your coolant reservoirs and what have you. It's really just, everything's just put together very well. The weight management is great. It's not exactly a front mid-engine car like the AMG GT, but the majority of the engine is sitting on or really behind the front axle. It's still a front engine car, but just the weight management, weight displacement is really great. You can really feel it in the nose in this car when you're driving, especially at high speeds. Like I said, this car has the active engine mounts, so that you can either loosen or tighten the grip on the engine, thus increasing handling, performance, chassis rigidity, and all that. Really just amazing power plant, and paired with that 7-speed AMG speed shift transmission. The facelifted version of this car does have the 9-speed. However, I really do honestly prefer the 7-speed. There's just something about the gear ratios. It's really just a pleasurable transmission to use, especially in the Sport Plus and race modes, which this car has. So right now I'm going to close it down. Now before we step inside and check out the interior, I just want to give you guys more of a complete view of the top going up and down on the car. So I'm going to set the tripod up real quick and you guys can check it out. So now I'm going to show you guys how the air cap feature works on this car. So once the top is down, using this switch inside, as you can see here, the front part of the air cap opens up, and you can see the rear part just opened up as well. And this kind of helps to channel air over the passenger compartment during top-down driving. Obviously, this feature can only be activated with the top down, and it really does help. Some people think it looks silly. To be honest, it's kind of a trade-off. It does look silly, however, it really does make a difference when you're doing top-down driving, especially high-speed top-down driving. That's with the windows down or windows up. A lot of people aren't even aware that their car has this, and even if they are, they really don't ever use it. However, my dad actually does use it quite a lot, and I think that it really is a useful feature to have. All right, so now we're going to step inside, check out the interior. As you guys probably just saw, the seatbelt retractor thing here. So if I close the door, see it comes out. And the second that I open the door, it goes right back in. It's kind of a cool thing a lot of Mercedes-AMG and Mercedes-Benz coupes and cabriolets come with. And there's even a button that I'll show you in a little bit. You actually press in case it times out and goes back in, and you don't want to reach all the way back for your seatbelt, it'll come back out to you. So let's step inside. And first off, let's see what she sounds like. This vehicle actually is equipped with the AMG performance exhaust system. So you can see that there, so that button, you press that to open the valves. And in some of the modes, like Sport Plus and Race mode, the valves will automatically open and stay open. So let's hear it. Wow, that is definitely the classic AMG soundtrack that I know and love. And when the top is down on this C63 S Cabriolet, the experience is that much better. You get all the grumbles and cracks and pops and grunts. I mean, this car never makes the same sound twice. And it's part of the reason why my dad bought the car. He fell in love with it the first time he drove one. Dynamically, you just can't beat it. It just handles so well. It rides great when you want it to. Rides like a race car when you want it to. And it's comfortable to drive. It has all the amenities and creature comforts a luxury car like this should have. I mean, there's even room for a couple people in the back seat. Really preferable for kids or babies or even pets or groceries and stuff like that. But we have fit a couple full-size adults back there pretty comfortably. And it is actually extremely hot out today, so we're going to put the roof up. And to do that, you just put your foot on the brake. You have the roof button here, push it forward. You can see there's a little graphic there. You can see in the mirror the rear clamshell just went up. The soft top is coming over us, just like that. Very, very quiet operation. Just like that, it locks into place. And you actually have a button that I think every car should have to put all four windows up simultaneously. So you just pull that switch there. Just like that, all the windows close. And so now that the convertible top is closed, honestly, you can't even tell that you're in a convertible. It really is honestly the same acoustically as a coupe, and that is due to the option called acoustic soft top. There's just a lot of extra, I guess, sound deadening material and what have you inside the soft top here. And so when you're on the highway or just in a windy environment, really acoustically, it's perfect in here. There's no real road noise or wind noise. It's about the same as you get in the coupe. Really just looking around here, I haven't reviewed a C-Class yet, or much less a C-Class AMG. And this being a top of the line, pretty much fully loaded C63 S Cabriolet. You can see my dad has the full interior carbon package here. So you have this kind of like carbon waterfall effect, AMG logo, and this door is just for the cup holders and some storage, cigarette lighter. Once again, he has the comfort seats. So you have the power thigh extenders, you have the heated and ventilated functions, you have the AMG logo there. Of course, the Falterbach crest on the headrest, and then you have that air scar function. And of course, tons of red contrast stitching. You have those dynamic inserts And speaking of Dynamica, you actually have the AMG Performance steering wheel. So you have the red leather racing stripe there, the red contrast stitching. The tops and bottoms are full leather, and this is of course a flat bottom steering wheel with the AMG logo here on this kind of like trim piece. But on the sides you have the AMG Dynamica, which is Mercedes-Benz's version of Alcantara. So there's no Alcantara in this car, or any Mercedes-AMG or Mercedes-Benz model that has it. It's just Dynamica. It's just their own brand or type of Alcantara, if you will, the microfiber suede. Of course, you have all that amazing red contrast stitching going all the way across the door panels. You have this cool kind of quilted effect here, large red leather inserts. You have this kind of like brushed aluminum. And of course, you have the seat controls, 3-person memory. We have the heated functions and the cooled, which we're going to turn on right now because it is very, very hot. You have the air scarf, which I'm not going to turn on because I don't want hot air blowing on my neck. But that basically just has these fans in the headrest turn on. And like I was saying earlier, on a cold night with the top down, or even with the top up if it's just cold out. Nonetheless, just another amazing luxury feature to have in this car. And moving over here to this bank of buttons, of course you have the Distronic Plus steering assist there, lane keep assist. You have parking sensors on or off. You have the 360 cam, which I'll turn on right now, so you press that. And sorry about the weird lines on the screen, just the camera. So here you have your top-down 360-degree view of the car, so you can see we're in this parking lot. It is basically creating all the marks in the parking lot perfectly. I mean, look at that. You can kind of see the cameras. There's some kind of algorithm that's stitching it together, which is pretty amazing. And you have a 180-degree view here, which I like to use for backing out of the driveway or backing out of a parking spot. It's really great to have. And if you go back, you can actually go up and switch between the views. So that's kind of like a zoomed-in top-down view. And it actually has the guidance lines. So if we put it into drive, you can see the guidance lines. So they're moving actively. And then if we go back, you have the side view. So if you turn the wheels, you can see the wheels turning. It's pretty cool. Then you have the rear view, and then kind of a zoomed in top-down view of the rear. And of course the rear, so you put it in reverse, you see the active guidance lines. And of course it has the 180-degree view. It really comes in handy. And then going back to the front, we put it in park, camera turns off. And back over here, the only other options I see that are missing, obviously the heads-up display. And I'm not honestly sure what this blank is. I know these vehicles don't come with night view assist. That normally would be there. Although I'm not sure. I think it's just a regular blank. But I know this blank is the heads-up display. And then you have the headlight controls down here for the LED intelligent light system. And coming over to the steering wheel, you have all your controls for home, voice-activated commands, phone, volume control. Actually, coming over to the gauge cluster here, you have, which I really honestly love the gauges on this car. I love that kind of like carbon fiber effect over by the needles, the tachometer and the speedometer. You have your fuel level display there, your temperatures. Speedometer goes up to 200 miles an hour, of course. Every AMG goes at least 200 miles an hour. Cars like the AMG GTR, GTR Pro, stuff like that, and even the SLS AMG, they went up to 220. And in the center here, we have a nice multifunction colored display, which actually shows what mode we're in. Right now we're Comfort. Then you have Sport, Sport Plus, Race mode, and of course you can hear the valves open. Then we have individual mode, which if we come over to the main screen here, we hit adjust, we can actually configure the individual mode. And sorry about the flickering of the screen, it's just the way that the camera's recording. So you can either have your drive mode be Sport Plus, Race, Comfort. You can change your suspension, drive, transmission mode, exhaust, ESP, I mean really everything. Personally, I like to just drop it down into Sport Plus or Race and then leave it at that. But honestly, you can really configure individual mode for pretty much any road conditions or driving situation. And when you put the vehicle into race mode, you get sport handling. So I'll show you guys one more time. So you have Sport Plus, which is not on. And then race mode, you have the little sport that lights up there. And that basically puts traction control, stability control partially off. If you want to turn it completely off, you just hold it. And now it is completely off, and the car is going to be a whole other animal. I mean, traction control is really your best friend in these cars. They make a lot of torque, and while they manage their torque very well, the car can get away from you at times, and it's better just to have all the nannies on. At least have sport handling mode on, so if you press it one more time, press it again, you have sport handling. And what I love about this screen here is it shows your mile an hour, your gear, the mode you're in, whether the Distronic Plus is on. You have your boost, temperature. So the boost will show when the car is actually driving. And you have your other modes. You can press home. Of course, you have trip. You have like your eco display, which honestly, who cares in this car? Your trip info, digital speedometer, which I just like to have on the other screen. Navigation, your radio info, media, telephone, assistance graphic. So that's part of your drive pilot there. So the radar sensor can read. And when we're driving, I'll show you that. When a car gets in front of you, you can kind of see the car's cameras are able to read that there's a vehicle in front and kind of like gauge the distance. And then you have service settings, and then the best menu by far is AMG. So you have things like your G meter there. So right now it shows we're in race mode, suspension in Sport Plus. The transmission's in auto, but if we come over to this button here, press that, shows that the transmission is in manual shifting mode, which is pretty fun. The car won't auto upshift on you. Exhaust is Sport Plus. Traction control is Sport. And if we do one more menu down, we have your lap timer, stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. But I really just like to leave it on this screen here. And of course, as far as the AC controls goes, you guys have seen my other videos. It's pretty basic. You have the bank of buttons here. You have the circulator, all your controls. If you hit the menu here, it takes you kind of to this menu here: temperature, air distribution, airflow, ionization, and stuff like that. So it's pretty simple, straightforward. One of my favorite screens that is in the on the infotainment system here in the command infotainment. You have individual configuration, and you have engine data, which is pretty cool. So that'll just show you that. And once again, I do apologize for the way the screen's kind of flickering. Can't really do much about that. If we go back, my favorite screen, hands down, in any of these cars, and it always kind of varies between vehicle to vehicle, but is the dynamic data or vehicle data. So this will kind of show the load that's on the suspension, how much you're holding the brake, and then you have the throttle input there, the mode you're in. So right now in race mode, if we put it to Sport Plus, kind of changes. Pretty cool. And it'll just show, I mean, actually it's funny, it even shows that the top is currently up. So there's kind of like a cross section of the car. It'll show what mode you're in. It'll show the steering angle, which is really, really cool. Active G meter, this kind of orange thing will go all around depending on the G's that the car is taking on. Let's see, continuing up here, have your rear view mirror. You have all your reading lights, SOS controls and stuff like that. And honestly, it's really just a very well done interior. I mean, Mercedes-Benz is no stranger to a convertible. They know how to do a convertible right. And what this basically is, as I was saying earlier, is the coupe with the roof cut off. So when they were designing the coupe, they really had the convertible in mind. So they knew exactly what to do with the body lines, and the fender arches and flares and all that. So they basically already had the design down, and I believe, well, this is a 2017. The coupe and the cabriolet came out around the same time, roughly. Sedan came out about a year and a half or so before. But honestly, really just love this car. It's great to drive. I mean, you have all your controls right at your fingertips. You have the windows down button, you have the roof button. This is actually a double. Here's the center console here. Pretty deep. You have a bunch of charging ports, stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And you have your auto start stop, which I really don't like that feature at all. I always leave it off. Although it defaults to off if you go into Sport Plus or race mode. You have your volume controls over here, your exhaust closed or open. You have your mode selector, manual transmission mode. These are your suspension modes. So right now the suspension's in Sport Plus. It's extremely stiff. One press puts it back into comfort. You guys can see there. And then one press again brings the suspension to Sport Plus, traction control off. And this kind of like mouse touchpad thing, you can actually choose to turn it off. My dad actually has it off because sometimes you like to rest your hand. You don't want it to kind of like start writing stuff on the screen or changing things. Instead, you have the scroll wheel here. If you go back, it's just a very intuitive system. Really some of the best infotainment on the market. And you have all your hotkeys down here. So you have navigation. That'll bring you to the map. And you have your radio. You have media, telephone, all your car settings. So you have things like dynamic select. You can just go to your 360 camera if you want. Let's see what else. Dynamic select, we just went to that. Vehicle settings. And it's a very, very fast, snappy software. So you have things like acoustic lock feedback. That decides whether the car will chirp the horn whenever you lock it. Your belt adjustment. automatic mirror folding, locator lighting, automatic locking, interior lighting delayed, ambient light color, ambient light brightness, pretty cool. And one more thing I want to show you guys is this button over here. Earlier I was talking about how the seatbelt will actually come out and basically make it easier so you don't have to reach all the way around to grab it. So if you just press this button, see, it comes right out. If you just pull the door handle, it'll go back in, and then once you close the door, it'll open up. And the reason it didn't come out on that side is the door didn't open, and the seat does not sense anybody sitting in it. So it's a very, very clever system. It's something that I actually got my dad for Father's Day this year. Are these amazing carbon fiber paddle shifter extensions. If you guys can see that well, if you open the door. So check that out. They're super nice. Your whole hand fits on it, unlike the main paddle shifter, which is kind of just this one silver piece. Now it extends all the way. And believe it or not, the carbon fiber weave on the paddle shifter extensions actually perfectly matches the OEM carbon fiber weave. So it's pretty cool. And I mean, you've just got things like the red contrast stitching everywhere. You have more of that silver trim there. Of course, as with all AMG models, you have the IWC Schaffhausen clock there. Timepiece looks very, very good. And then you have the 3 central air vents with 1 on each side. Of course, you have the start-stop button. And then down here, you have the AMG Performance pedals. They are the kind of like the silver brushed aluminum trim with the rubber inserts so your foot doesn't slip around. Really, that's about it when it comes to the interior of this car. I mean, it's really just amazing what they did with the car. The facelifted version of this car has been out since about 2019. Really just has minor things like updated steering wheel controls. You can have a new display. You can have a full digital cluster, which I really don't like. I really do prefer the physical gauges. I mean, just can't beat that. You do get kind of a bigger screen. This is the largest screen of the 2 that's available for this car. The new one, I think, is just a little bit wider. Then you get the new grille, and then actually my dad will be doing the Panamericana grille conversion on this car soon. And we also have some H&R VTF adjustable lowering springs for it that work with the factory struts. So stay tuned for that. Right now the car is not lowered. It doesn't lower in any of the modes. It just stiffens up the suspension and the dampers. But it should really, really increase the handling and the driving performance once we do that. And of course, out there you have the blind spot monitoring triangle. So let's see if I can get it turned on just by putting the car in the ignition. You guys can see it there. It turns on. Where other cars, it would kind of be like on standby mode, it would be orange, and that would confuse a lot of people. So Mercedes decided to just have it off up until about 20 miles an hour, and then it turns on. So when you start the car, it doesn't turn on. So right now I'm going to show you guys race mode or launch control on the C63 S Cabriolet, and then we're going to take it out on the road and see what it's like to drive. Alright guys, right now I'm in the 2017 Mercedes-AMG C63 S Cabriolet. Right now I have it in comfort mode. The steering is at its lightest setting. The suspension is in its softest setting. Just doing the speed limit right now, cruising at about 40 miles an hour and 1300 RPM. There's virtually zero wind noise. It really is just like the coupe in here. So right now I'm going to pop it down into Sport Plus mode. Instantly I felt the suspension go into its stiffest setting. The steering tightened up. Actually, the transmission dropped a gear there. We're going to do a little bit of manual shifting, but right now we're going to enter the highway, maybe do an exit or two. Show you guys the merging power of the 4-liter bi-turbo V8. All right, here we go. Let this car get ahead of us a little bit, then just plant it. Traction control came on for a little bit there. See, before you know it, you're right on another car. It's really amazing just how much power this car has and the way it uses its torque. Like every other AMG vehicle I've driven, the torque is very linear. It's 516 pound-feet, but it just stays flat all the way through. I mean, it's really just something else, the way that these engines are built. I mean, they are hand-built, and they're pretty high revving for what they are. They're not flat plane crank, unlike the new AMG GT Black Series. However, they really are impressive. Gonna hit it under the overpass here. So right now I'm gonna put it down into race mode, do some manual shifting. Really love the way that this transmission downshifts. I mean, this thing just gets up to speed so fast. Dynamically, it's amazing. You really don't notice that it's a 4,000 plus pound vehicle. It certainly doesn't look like it's 4,000 plus pounds. Disguises its weight very nicely. Everything between the suspension, steering, the electronic rear differential, which manages power and torque perfectly. It always lets just the right amount of traction control come on without hindering your acceleration and your grip. I mean, the active engine mounts are amazing, and the stopping power is just unreal. I mean, it is not a light car. It's not a 3,500 pound, 3,400 pound car. The AMG GT and GTS is actually around that range. They're like 3,700. This is nearly 500 pounds heavier. It's actually heavier than the sedan, I believe, the C63S sedan. But nonetheless, you really don't notice that you're driving a car that's this heavy. I mean, dynamically, it is amazing. The engineers at Mercedes-AMG did a great job with this car. And as you guys saw earlier, the race start really gave me minimal wheel spin, gave me the most amount of grip possible. I believe the 0 to 60 on these cars is around 3.6, 3.7 seconds, something like that. And the sound you get from the engine and also the exhaust with the flaps open, you get all the pops and the cracks. It's really second to none. If there's one thing AMG knows how to do properly, it is make their cars sound amazing. And honestly, compared to BMW and Audi, their cars kind of sound artificial. They pump sound into the cabin. You don't get the same pops, crackles, and grunting sounds. Like I was saying earlier, this car does not make the same noise twice. It's always making a different sound where it's gurgling, it sounds like it's breathing, or it's really just alive. It's just one of those engines, you really can't beat it. Even if you can actually kick out the slow. So like you just saw, the car really lets you kick out the tail very playfully. And one thing I love, when the car is in race mode or sport handling, you can really do the sport handling in any mode. This traction control is not completely off. There's still a little bit of stability control. So the car gives you most of the control, but also watches your back in a sense. So you can do a little drift or power slide here and there, and you know the car is not going to let you wrap itself around a pole or hit a tree. So I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. So just like that, you can do an easy little power slide or drift, and the car really has most of the control. You really do have a lot of control at the same time. But like I was saying, the car won't let you crash it or, you know, do anything crazy like drive off the road. Just making a quick U-turn here. So the car can be very playful. Really is amazing. Nothing beats those downshifts. That is just out of this world. We're back in a comfort. But yeah, guys, this really is just an all-around great car. You can drive it every day. My dad actually does daily drive this. And honestly, between power, luxury, comfort, all the amenities you can want, the open top experience whenever you want it, you really can't beat it. I mean, there's not that many cars out there that really compete with this car, if you think about it. Between the engine, just the power plant, the drivetrain, the top-down experience, the dynamics, all the technology that's in this car, I mean, you really can't beat it. Alright guys, well that should do it for this review of the 2017 Mercedes-AMG C63S Cabriolet. Once again, thank you to my dad, who's allowed me to take it out for the day to show you guys what it's like to drive and all the cool features and technology. See you next time, guys.